Okay, here we go, number 2. Separate paper, of course. Don't do anything in the paint. That's foolish. Okay, back to Hunter's comment. Look. Once I realized that it really isn't f, it's really not f prime, it's just some formula, I don't have to use those symbols any longer. I simply say I am finding the integral of this formula. And just like Carrie Ann just said, I simply need to find the antiderivative of that formula. The antiderivative of what I'm circling is right here. So yeah, I don't have to use f and f prime anymore. Pretty good? Okay, number 2. So it says, what is the average value of this formula over that interval? So before I can do anything, I've got to figure out how to calculate the average of something. So you just took a test. There were 2 questions that said how to find the average. So what would be the very first thing you would write on your paper if you were responding to this question? Hands up, everybody on this one. Everybody. What's the very first thing you would write if you're being asked to find the average of something, Maddie?
I'd like write out, I guess, like the derivative, but then in front I'd put like 2 minus -1.
Oh, there we go. Slow down for a second. You said the wrong word, no big deal. You meant integral.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry.
This is nothing more than a whole bunch of numbers, all computed with different values of t. I want to add up those numbers. So I need to take that formula, which will create many different numbers. I want to add up all those numbers. So I do that with an integral. I want to add them up from t values of -1 to t values of 2. You raise your hand if you knew for certain I was going to write that. Point 2 for Maddie. Once I have added up all the numbers, Jesse, what do I do with all those numbers that have been added up? I'm trying to find the average of all those numbers.
Divide them by the time interval.
Yeah, I need to divide by how many I added up. I accomplished that using dt and the time interval. 2 points for Jesse. Questions? Okay, cool. Now, I can't use my calculator, so I cannot use this formula. I cannot use that formula. I must find a different formula. So this is 1/3, parenthesis, according to the fundamental theorem over here, Ethan Valletta, I'm looking and making a comparison. I'm looking at this right here. And I say that is an exact copy of this. I've got this formula inside here. According to this rule, I don't want to use this formula anymore, right there. I want to use this formula instead. So how do I go from this formula, just in general terms, not the specifics, Ethan? How do we go from that formula to this other formula?
Find the antiderivative.
I need the antiderivative, 2 points. These are 2 terms, they're subtracting. Then that means just like derivatives, I can find the antiderivatives separately. I don't have to do them together. And the rule I'll use is right here, power rule. It's a really easy rule. The 3 is a multiplying constant. So that just gets written down. So let's get this out of the way. So I'm creating the new formula. I'm finding the antiderivative. I've got the formula in blue, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to find the antiderivative of that formula. So I write down the 3. I write down the t. The exponent becomes 3 plus 1. And I divide by the same number. And I have subtract. There's a 1 out front. There's the t. The exponent becomes 2 plus 1 divided by the same number. I just created a brand new formula. I started with this formula here. Let's be the right color. This formula here, I found the antiderivative of that formula. That's right here. I'm supposed to take that antiderivative and plug in two numbers, -1 and 2. Questions about anything? Please, Dylan, sorry.
Are we just not including C in that formula because it's a term subtracted terms are going to get canceled out anyway? So you're just doing that in advance?
That's perfect. 3 points for that one. Yeah, it's back to what I was saying to Kate when she asked, if they ask you to just find an antiderivative, every answer will say plus C, no big deal, just pick one of them. If they say find a specific formula for F, they'll give you some information which will allow you to find the value of C, something like this. And then the third example is if you're doing an integral, and as part of that process you're finding an antiderivative, the C will add to 0 anyway, like it did here.
It'll do it every time.
Every time.
Got it.
So no one expects you to write it. You can if you want, but it doesn't. You're not required. 2 more for Dylan. It's a good question. That's 5 total. Cool. Anybody else? Solid. So we could clean this up a little bit. It'll help. So let's go, Josh, just to summarize here. So Josh, we have a formula here in orange. You don't really have to give it a name. But how is the orange formula related to this yellow formula?
The yellow's the antiderivative of the orange.
Say it louder.
The yellow's the antiderivative of the orange.
Perfect. The yellow is the antiderivative of the orange. That's the whole fundamental theorem. Is instead of integrating the orange formula, we go find the antiderivative of the orange, and we plug into that antiderivative formula the two values of the limit. 3 points for Josh. That's well done. Cool. Next thing. So let's clean it up a little bit. So don't forget the 1/3. Let's see. This would just be 3t to the 4th over 4. Subtract. This would just be t cubed over 3. We'll go to Brooklyn to help us. So Brooklyn, this line is telling us what to write on the next line. So what do I write on the next line? Pause right there. You're doing great. 3 points. Pick it up here with Caleb. What's next, Caleb?
You could do -2 to the 3rd over 3.
2 points for Caleb. Let's go, Drex. What's next, Drex?
Sorry, that was kind of working.
You're okay. No worries. So we've got our formula here for F, for whatever this is. It's the antiderivative of the orange up there. So we've got our formula that is the antiderivative of this. We're supposed to take that formula, plug in the upper limit and plug in the lower limit and subtract. So what would come next, Jack?
Just want to close that up with the parentheses and then plug in -1.
So yes, so we go to minus, another parenthesis. So what to write, Drex?
3 times -1 to the power of 4.
2 points for Drex. Questions? So now what, Ethan Jensen?
You're just going to be calculating everything.
We're not quite done writing.
Oh, wait. You need to put a close parenthesis.
Not quite, but you're okay. We took, this was my, so I had this formula,
Yeah.
and now I have a new formula here in yellow. How is the green related to the yellow? So here's my green formula inside the integral.
Yeah.
There's my yellow formula outside the integral.
Yeah.
How is green related to yellow?
It's the negative. Oh, yeah, the negative one is the 2.
Are you doing okay? So the yellow is the antiderivative of the green.
Yeah.
We need to plug into the yellow a 2 and also a -1.
Yeah.
We haven't quite finished plugging in the -1. So what would I write?
Minus -1 just the third power.
There we go. 2 points for Ethan. Okay, whole class, there's an error on the board. You got to find another way to lose points. There's an error. Costly error. Let's go, Claire.
The second equation was missing 1/3.
Oh, thank you. So I either need to put a 1/3 here, like this. Perfect, that will solve the mistake. Another method that I tend to use, not better, just different, is I'll put an extra set of parentheses here. Raise your hand if you saw that error. 2 points, 3 for question. Questions? Okay, here's the really good news. Here's why I keep telling you, you will like the written section better than you like the multiple choice section. Because on the written section, you're done. You drop the pencil and move on. Okay? You just stop and you get full credit. Dope. Okay. Okay. What was that?
LG, let's go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh, but does it matter if you do like if you plug in -1 first before you plug in -2, or is that
But because we're subtracting, yeah, we've got to go in order. Otherwise, we'll get the negative of the correct answer.
And it's always the top one minus.
Top minus bottom. Yep. We have a lot of things that are top minus bottom, so it helps. So 2 more. Anybody else? Okay. It is the multiple choice section though, so we have to keep going. Okay, here's a trick. Look, don't miss the trick. As you are figuring all this out, it's helpful to remember this term right here and this term both were created by this formula. This term in yellow and this term in yellow were created by this formula. So the green terms will more likely combine easily and the yellow will combine easily because they already have the same denominator. So watch for that. So here we go. Let's move some stuff out of the way. Can't use your calculator. If we could, we would have done the integral long ago. Yeah, that would not have been a wise choice. So here we go. This color works good. So we have 1/3. Parenthesis. We're going to do what's inside here. All right. So Olivia will help me. So right here, Olivia, factors are terms on this fraction.
Factor.
All factors. That's good news. I can do it in whatever order I want. So I'm going to do 2 to the 4th, which is?
16.
Good. I'm going to divide first because it's easy. 16 divided by 4?
4.
Multiply by 3? 12. Thank you, Olivia. 3 points. Then minus. We'll go to Ian. 2 cubed in,
8.
so that's over 3. Then I'm going to do this stuff and then distribute the negative. So we'll go to Kate. So -1 to the 4th, Kate. So because it's an even, it's +1. No worries. So then that's 3 over 4, 2 points. The negative means it's still negative. It's made negative. We'll go to Stella. This right here, Stella, what's this going to be? Divided by 3 is -1/3. That will make it +1/3. This -1 distributed will make it -1/3 again. 2 for Stella, Tessa's turn. So which 2 would you combine first, Tessa?
The -8 thirds and 1/3.
And that would give you?
That would be -9 thirds, which can simplify to just -3.
Nice. So I'll just write it out. 2 points for Tessa. So we have a 12, we have a -3, we have a -3/4. So Maddox, which 2 would you combine now?
12 and -3.
Giving you 2 points. Go to Carrie Ann. How do we combine those 2 terms, Carrie Ann? We do, but to subtract, we want the denominator to be the same. So how do I write 9 with 4 as the bottom?
So 9 is the same as 9 over 1, so we'll multiply by 9 over 1 by 4. So it's 36 over 4 minus 3/4.
Perfect, 2 points. 2 points. This is catching up to you. Hold on. And then that becomes what, Carrie Ann?
Wouldn't that just be 33 over 4?
2 more points. Total of 4. So Paige, is what I have written on the board at this moment terms or factors?
Factors.
So I can combine them in any order. So I'm going to take 33 divided by 3, which is?
11.
Good, so I'm left with 11/4. 2 for Paige. Questions? That's it. Yeah, simple is not the right word, but you know. Like everything, you get better as you work at it. So. Yeah, I would never proclaim to the class, hey, this is a piece of cake. No, it's not. So, questions?